The Isle is a pretty simple game. Kill or be killed, eat or be eaten, or in some cases just hide and hope you survive. But within this game are a lot of systems that, while on the surface don't look that complex, can actually take a lot of time to learn to use properly. In the last episode we talked about water, and while the system itself is pretty simple to use, there's a lot of complexities around the actual water. How to find it, what you should do when you're around it, and it's these systems that we discussed last time. But admittedly, water isn't that complex of a system, so today I decided to talk about probably one of the most complex systems in the game, and that being the scent system. Now, if you've bought the Isle recently, scent isn't that new of a system, but if you've been playing for a very long time, like some of us have, scent is a system that was added fairly recently, within the last year or so. But it's a system that, despite the simplicity of what it's trying to do, is surprisingly complex. So, sit back and enjoy, as today I bring you the Isle Survival Guide, Episode 2. Scent. Now, scent primarily comes into play on the survival type of game mode, so we're going to be focusing on that. And with that, I believe only the survival creatures, that being the creatures listed here on screen, are the only ones that are able to use scent. So, let's ask the first question. What is scent? Now, the scent system is actually something that's very easy to use. If you are standing still, walking, or trotting, you can click the Q button. By doing this, your dinosaur will go into a sniffing animation, and after a short time, certain resources will be highlighted on your screen depending on what you are. Now, as both a herbivore and a carnivore, there are three things you can see while during scent, two of which are universal. The first being water. It'll be highlighted blue and sometimes through the map depending on what type of water source it is. The second would be footprints, which are highlighted yellow as seen here. The only thing that changes between carnivore and herbivore is that as a herbivore, your food, as in the bushes, will be highlighted a very vibrant green, and for carnivores, it'll be a very, very vibrant red, both of which will have scent trails coming off of them, same with the footprints. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's cool and all, but isn't that it? And, well, yeah, that is it. But the system is a lot more complex than what it appears to be on the surface. And by that, let me explain. Scent can be a tool if used in the right way, and actually an asset to your gameplay that once you use, you really can't be without afterward. One thing that is really helpful to do depending on what or who you are is to constantly smell the area as your scent wears off. There's a cooldown period where you're not allowed to sniff if your scent hasn't worn off yet, and within these periods of time you're able to see basically everything in the immediate area. This is a great way to check what's in the area. Sometimes you find footprints of things that you don't want to be near, such as bigger carnivores or carnivores in general if you are a herbivore. This small amount of information is something that's actually incredibly useful. It can help you gauge what type of animals are in the area and whether or not you need to go in a different direction than something that you don't want to face. On top of this, it also helps you find water and also stay away from dangerous water sources. Like I said in the water video, there's always a version of swamp on just about every map in the Isle, and, well, V3 is no exception. This water source can be spotted through scent from a massive distance away, and because of this, it's a giant beacon for most large carnivores that are in the area looking for easy prey. I would suggest avoiding this area at all costs, like I said in the water video, and this can actually help you stay away from them and find smaller water sources that you can go to. But that's enough about the general stuff. We're going to break this down into two categories: how to use scent to hunt and how to use scent to stay alive. Now, that is a little counterintuitive since the carnivores need to hunt to stay alive, but I feel like you guys know what I mean by this. So let's start with number 1 on the list, which is how to hunt with scent. Now, hunting with scent seems like it'd be something that's fairly simple. You hold down Q, follow the scent trail until you find what you're hunting. Well, that is a pretty effective strategy, and it can be used to your advantage. Don't forget that sometimes trails can go cold if the creature decides to crouch or other such things. So, number 1 thing of advice is see where the trail is going to lead and set that point. When you smell a trail by another dinosaur, you can normally see pretty far ahead of yourself where it's going to end before you have to scent again. By looking where the trail is going to lead, and thereby when you're going to have to click Q to use scent again, it allows you to get a better direction of where the actual creature you're tracking is heading. And on top of this, a better idea of where or how it's going to possibly juke or try to lose you. In order to better track the creature so that you don't lose it, it's better to look ahead to see where the footprints lead, and set a landmark for where they are, like a tree or a bush or some sort of rock, or in any case, maybe even a water or another landmark. By doing this, you're able to set a set point where you know that the creature at the very least was. You might even catch a glimpse of it if you're lucky enough. The one mistake that a lot of people do make with scent is to get tunnel visioned on the scent itself. Don't forget that you still have eyes and you can still use them pretty effectively. If you see the creature up ahead, begin to ignore scent and only catch the scent trail if you absolutely need to find it again after losing visual sight. Sometimes it's better to not focus on the trail on the ground and look ahead at what the actual creature is doing. Now this is exclusively for carnivores, so let's get into what you can do to survive with scent. Now, how to survive with scent is actually very similar to what I went over earlier in the video, and that is that you use scent to tell what type of creatures are in the area so that you can avoid them if you feel like you need to. An example of this is if you're a Pachy, it's good to know that there's a fully grown Allosaurus in the area so that you can avoid, hide from, or in general just leave the area because of the fear of this creature. Or if you're a Utahraptor, for example, you can tell if there's a fully grown Tyrannosaurus. These two examples bring up very good points that it doesn't just help herbivores, it does help carnivores too. There's always a bigger fish unless you're one of the apexes. And the final mechanic of water that I'd like to talk about is one that isn't necessarily a mechanic, but a helpful tool that I have found to work pretty well. And that is scent's interaction with shallow and deep water sources, and rain and water in general. Now, you'll actually find that there can be scent or markers and footprints inside of water, such as streams or lakes or something of that nature, whether it be corpses or even footprints. But they're a lot harder to detect, and most of the time will go unnoticed by a significant portion of people who actually just don't pay attention to it. Most people are distracted by the fact that mud seems to leave a lot more footprints than most other sources, so the footprints on the side of the bank attract a lot more attention than the footprints in the actual water. And this mechanic is something that you can exploit to the fullest if you're smart. By using the water to cover your path in some way, say by leading your trail into the water and then going up several feet or maybe even almost half the river length and then leaving out a different side, most predators will be somewhat confused as to where your footprints left, and some might not even notice where the footprints are altogether. And this does work in deeper water, but for the most part, once you start swimming, there is no footprints to speak of, so this is mostly for small water sources. And finally, something it should be noted is that scent doesn't work during rainstorms. Thunderstorms, all of it. Now, if it's physically raining on the map, scent doesn't work. You can sit there and click Q for as long as you want, but the scent, as what it would in real life, washes away, meaning that it's very dangerous to rely on scent if you know there's a coming storm. So be careful and mindful of things such as this. It's always very, very, very good to keep track of what type of weather is going to be out. If it's a cloudy day, realize that rain might be coming, especially on the Isle, and especially during my recording sessions, because 9 times out of 10, your hunt could get completely ruined if it begins to rain. Well, with that, I feel like I've in-depth covered scent to just about where it needs to be. And something I'd like to talk about now is, one, kind of just how this took so long to make. And I know it may sound weird coming from me, but it has been a really weird about month and a half. But rather than make a ton of excuses, I'd rather just say that I'm sorry to the people who waited for this video for so long. It really is my fault, and at the end of the day, I can come up with all the excuses I want. But I would like to say that thank you guys for supporting me to this far, and I can't believe how many views and subscribers we've gotten since the uploading of the very first video, and with the continued support on the Isle Survival series. So, with that guys, I'd like to conclude episode 2 of the Isle Survival Guide, Scent. But something that I would like to say right before the video ends is, please put in the comments section what type of video in the series you'd like to say next. I'm open to any sort of suggestions, and I'm very much looking forward to your guys' answers. As always, thank you guys for watching. This has been the Jays of 77, and I hope you have a fantastic day.